If you're a retiree sitting on cash in a savings account right now, I need you to understand something that most financial advisors won't tell you straight. You're not preserving wealth. You're watching it evaporate in real time. And the numbers are far worse than what you're being told. Let me show you exactly what's happening to your money while you sleep. Right now, the average savings account in America pays around 0.5% interest. The high-yield accounts, the ones they advertise everywhere, might give you 4% if you're lucky. Sounds decent, right? Here's the problem. Real inflation, the actual cost of living increases you experience every single day, is running somewhere between 8% and 12%, depending on how you calculate it. That's not the official CPI number the government publishes. That's the real number when you factor in food, energy, insurance, property taxes, and healthcare costs that retirees actually face. Do the math with me. If you have $500,000 in savings earning 4% interest, you're making $20,000 a year before taxes. After taxes, maybe $15,000. But if real inflation is running at 10%, you're losing $50,000 in purchasing power annually. That's a net loss of $35,000 every single year. In 5 years, you've lost $175,000 in real wealth. Your account balance might look the same, but what that money can actually buy has been cut by more than a third. This is the silent wealth transfer happening right now, and it's accelerating. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 68-year-old retired teacher from Ohio. She did everything right, saved diligently for 40 years, built up $800,000 in her retirement accounts. When she retired in 2020, she moved everything to safe savings accounts and CDs because she'd watched her friends lose money in the 2008 crash. She wanted security. She wanted to protect what she'd worked her entire life to build. 5 years later, her account balance is actually higher. She's got about $850,000 now with the interest. But here's what happened to her actual purchasing power. Her grocery bill went from $400 a month to $750. Her homeowner's insurance doubled from $1,200 to $2,400 annually. Her property taxes increased 40%. Her Medicare supplement plan went from $180 to $320 per month. The car she could have bought for $25,000 in 2020 now costs $42,000. When you add it all up, Margaret's $850,000 today buys what $520,000 bought in 2020. She's lost $280,000 in real purchasing power while her account balance went up. She's bleeding wealth and doesn't even realize it because the number on her statement looks fine. This is happening to millions of retirees right now, and most have no idea. The financial system is designed to make you feel safe while your wealth quietly disappears. They show you nominal returns, account balances that tick up slowly, statements that look stable, but they don't show you the purchasing power chart. They don't show you what's really happening to your ability to maintain your lifestyle. Here's what makes this particularly devastating for retirees. You can't earn it back. If you're 45 and you lose 30% of your wealth, you've got 20 years of earning power to recover. If you're 70 and you lose 30% of your wealth, you're spending down a smaller pot for the rest of your life. Every percentage point of purchasing power you lose is permanent. There's no do-over, no second career, no time to rebuild, and the bleed is getting worse, not better. Look at what's happened to the dollar's purchasing power over just the last 4 years. In 2020, $100 bought you a certain basket of goods. Today, that same $100 buys you about $75 worth of those goods. That's a 25% loss in 4 years. If that rate continues, and there's every indication it will accelerate, your $500,000 in savings will have the purchasing power of $375,000 in 4 more years. Then $280,000 4 years after that. You're on a treadmill that's speeding up while your ability to run is slowing down. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but the stock market is risky. I can't afford to lose money at my age. And you're absolutely right to be cautious. The last thing you want is to watch your nest egg drop 40% in a market crash when you're 72 years old. That's a legitimate fear. But here's what you need to understand. By sitting in cash, you're guaranteeing a loss. It's not a risk. It's a certainty. You are losing purchasing power every single month. The only question is how fast. The real risk isn't volatility. The real risk is running out of money because inflation destroyed your purchasing power while you were trying to stay safe. Let me show you what's driving this and why it's not going to stop. The Federal Reserve has printed more money in the last 5 years than in the previous 100 years combined. They've expanded the money supply by over $6 trillion since 2020. Every single one of those dollars dilutes the value of the dollars you're holding. It's basic supply and demand. When you flood the market with something, its value drops. Your savings account isn't shrinking in number, but each dollar in it is worth less every single day. And they can't stop. The government is running trillion-dollar deficits. They're spending $6.5 trillion while collecting $4.5 trillion in revenue. That $2 trillion gap has to be filled somehow. They can't raise taxes enough to cover it. They can't cut spending without political suicide. So they print. They create new money out of thin air, and that new money makes your old money worth less. This is the hidden tax that nobody votes for but everyone pays. And retirees on fixed incomes pay the most. Here's where it gets really concerning. The official inflation numbers you see on the news, the CPI that the government publishes, those numbers are engineered to look lower than reality. They use something called hedonic adjustments and substitution effects. Basically, if steak gets too expensive, they assume you'll buy chicken instead, and they call that equivalent. If a new car has more features, they adjust the price down to account for the improved quality. But you're not living in a spreadsheet. You're living in the real world where your actual costs are going up faster than the official numbers suggest. The Chapwood Index, which tracks the actual cost of the top 500 items Americans buy, shows inflation running between 8% and 12% in most cities. That's the real number. That's what you're experiencing at the grocery store, the gas pump, the insurance office. And your savings account earning 4% isn't even close to keeping up. Now, let me share something that most retirees don't know about but should. There's a way to hold physical assets inside your retirement accounts without triggering taxes or penalties. I'm talking about moving a portion of your IRA or 401k into physical gold or silver that you actually own, stored in a secure vault, but still maintaining the tax-advantaged status of your retirement account. If you've got $100,000 or more in retirement savings, this might be worth looking into. I put together a free guide that explains exactly how gold IRAs work, how to set one up without tax consequences, and what to watch out for. It's in the description below. No pressure, but if you're concerned about your purchasing power getting destroyed by inflation, it's worth understanding your options. Takes about 5 minutes to read through. All right, back to what's happening with your savings. The wealth transfer we're seeing right now is unprecedented in modern American history. Since 2020, the bottom 50% of Americans have lost about $900 billion in real purchasing power, while the top 1% have gained over $2 trillion. This isn't happening by accident. This is the direct result of monetary policy that benefits asset holders while punishing savers. If you own stocks, real estate, businesses, or hard assets, inflation helps you. Your assets appreciate in nominal terms while your debts get easier to pay off with cheaper dollars. But if you're holding cash, if you're in savings accounts or money market funds, you're on the wrong side of the trade. You're the one getting quietly robbed. And here's the cruel irony. The people who can least afford to lose wealth, retirees on fixed incomes, are the ones holding the most cash. They're the ones sitting in savings accounts because they were taught that cash is safe. They're the ones getting destroyed by this policy while watching their purchasing power evaporate. Let me give you another real example. Robert, 71, retired from a manufacturing job in Michigan. He's got $650,000 in retirement savings. He's been drawing down $35,000 a year to supplement his Social Security. In 2020, that $35,000 covered his expenses comfortably. He had money left over. He took his wife on a nice vacation every year. He helped his grandkids with college. Today, that same $35,000 doesn't cover his basic expenses. His property taxes went up $2,400. His homeowner's insurance increased $1,800. His car insurance jumped $900. His grocery bill increased $4,200 annually. His utilities went up $1,500. His Medicare costs increased $1,180. That's $12,480. in increased annual expenses, just from inflation on his existing lifestyle. He's not living more extravagantly. He's not buying luxury items. He's buying the exact same things he bought 4 years ago, and it's costing him $12,180 more per year. So now he's drawing down $4,700 annually instead of $35,000. That's a 35% increase in his withdrawal rate. At this pace, his money runs out years earlier than he planned. And he's one of the lucky ones because he at least has savings. Millions of retirees are living purely on Social Security, watching their purchasing power get destroyed with no buffer at all. This is the retirement crisis nobody's talking about. It's not that people didn't save enough. It's that the money they saved is being systematically devalued by monetary policy designed to benefit debtors and asset holders at the expense of savers. Now, let's talk about what's coming next, because this is where it gets really important. The Federal Reserve is trapped. They can't raise interest rates high enough to actually fight inflation without crashing the economy and the government's ability to service its debt. The government is paying over $1 trillion annually just in interest on the national debt. If rates go significantly higher, that number becomes $2 trillion, then $3 trillion. It's mathematically impossible to sustain. So what are they going to do? They're going to keep rates lower than inflation. They're going to keep printing money to cover deficits. They're going to keep devaluing the currency, because the alternative is defaulting on the debt or cutting spending so dramatically that it causes a depression. Neither of those is politically viable. This means the purchasing power destruction you've experienced over the last 4 years isn't an anomaly. It's the new normal. It's going to continue. It's probably going to accelerate. Your savings account isn't going to suddenly start paying 10% interest to keep up with real inflation. The banks can't afford to pay you that much because they're not earning that much on their investments. The whole system is designed to transfer wealth from savers to borrowers, from the prudent to the reckless, from retirees to the government, and you're sitting right in the crosshairs. Here's what a lot of retirees don't realize. The safe strategy of holding cash is actually the riskiest strategy in an inflationary environment. You're taking a guaranteed loss every single year. The number in your account might stay stable or even grow slightly, but your actual wealth, your purchasing power, your ability to maintain your lifestyle is declining steadily. Compare that to someone who owns assets, real estate, for example. If you own your home free and clear, inflation actually helps you. Your property taxes might go up, but your housing cost is essentially fixed while renters are getting crushed by 30%, 40%, 50% rent increases. If you own rental property, you can raise rents with inflation. Your mortgage payment stays the same while your rental income increases. Or stocks. Companies can raise prices with inflation. Their revenues go up in nominal terms. Their stock prices tend to track inflation over time. You get some volatility, sure, but over a 10-year period, you're likely to maintain purchasing power or even gain. Or commodities, gold, silver, oil, agricultural products. These are real assets that tend to hold value when currency is being debased. When the dollar loses purchasing power, it takes more dollars to buy the same amount of gold. The gold didn't change. The dollar did. But cash? Cash just sits there losing value. There's no mechanism for it to keep up with inflation. The interest you earn is always going to be less than real inflation because that's how the system is designed. Banks borrow from you at 4% and lend at 7%. The government borrows from you at 4% and inflates at 10%. You're the lender getting a negative real return while everyone borrowing from you profits. This is the game. And if you're sitting in cash, you're losing. Now, I'm not saying you should have zero cash. You need liquidity. You need emergency funds. You need money for near-term expenses. But if you've got $500,000 or $1 million sitting in savings accounts earning 4% while inflation runs at 10%, you're making a catastrophic mistake. You're guaranteeing that you'll run out of money faster than you planned. Let me show you the math on a typical retiree scenario. Let's say you're 65 years old with $750,000 in savings. You need $50,000 a year to live on after Social Security. You're earning 4% in a high-yield savings account. Sounds reasonable, right? Year 1, you withdraw $50,000. You earn $30,000 in interest. Your balance drops to $730,000. But inflation at 10% means your purchasing power is now equivalent to $657,000 in year $0. You've lost $93,000 in real wealth in 1 year. Year 2, you need $55,000 to maintain the same lifestyle because of inflation. You earn $29,200 in interest. Your balance drops to $704,200, but in real terms, that's now equivalent to $577,000 in year $0. You've lost another $80,000 in purchasing power. By year 5, your account balance is $615,000, but in real purchasing power, it's equivalent to $382,000 in year $0. You've lost half your wealth in 5 years, while your account balance only dropped 18%. The number looks manageable. The reality is devastating. And here's the worst part. By year 10, you're completely out of money. Not because you spent recklessly, not because you had unexpected expenses, but because inflation destroyed your purchasing power faster than your interest could keep up. You did everything the safe way, and you still went broke. This is the reality facing millions of retirees right now. And most don't see it coming until it's too late. The financial industry isn't going to warn you about this. They make money on your savings accounts. They make money on your money market funds. They make money keeping you in cash. They're not incentivized to tell you that you're losing wealth. They're incentivized to make you feel safe while your purchasing power quietly disappears. Your financial advisor probably isn't going to tell you either. Most of them are trained to focus on nominal returns, not real returns. They'll show you that your account balance is stable or growing slightly. They'll tell you you're being prudent and conservative. They won't show you the purchasing power chart because it's too scary. It reveals that their safe strategy is actually destroying your wealth. But you need to see it. You need to understand what's really happening. Because once you understand the game, you can make different choices. Here's what smart retirees are doing right now. They're keeping 6 to 12 months of expenses in cash for liquidity and emergencies. That's it. Everything else is being moved into assets that can maintain purchasing power during inflation. Real estate, dividend-paying stocks, commodities, precious metals, things that have intrinsic value that can't be printed away by the Federal Reserve. They're not trying to get rich. They're trying to not get poor. They're trying to maintain the purchasing power they spent 40 years building. They're trying to make sure their money lasts as long as they do. And they're doing it now, not waiting for some perfect moment that never comes. Because here's the thing about inflation. It's a compounding loss. Every year you wait, you lose more purchasing power. Every month you sit in cash earning 4% while inflation runs at 10%, you're falling further behind. The longer you wait to address this, the more wealth you lose permanently. Think about it this way. If you lose 10% of your purchasing power this year, you need an 11% gain next year just to get back to even. If you lose 10% 2 years in a row, you need a 23% gain to recover. The math gets worse the longer you wait. You're not just losing ground. You're losing the ability to recover the ground you've lost. This is why timing matters. This is why understanding what's happening right now is so critical. You can't get back the purchasing power you've already lost, but you can stop the bleeding going forward. You can protect what you have left. You can make sure the next 5 years don't look like the last 5 years. Let me tell you about one more person. Linda, 69, retired nurse from Florida. She had $580,000 in savings in 2020. She watched it grow to $620,000 by 2024 with interest. She felt good about her financial situation. She thought she was being responsible and conservative. Then she sat down with a financial advisor who showed her the real numbers. Her $620,000 in 2024 had the purchasing power of $403,000 in 2020 dollars. She'd lost $177,000 in real wealth while her account balance went up. She was devastated. She'd done everything she was supposed to do, and she'd still lost nearly a third of her wealth. But here's the important part. She made changes. She moved 60% of her savings into a diversified portfolio of dividend stocks, real estate investment trusts, and precious metals. She kept 40% in cash for near-term needs and emergencies. Over the next 2 years, while inflation continued running hot, her purchasing power stabilized. The assets she owned appreciated with inflation. The dividends she received increased. She stopped the bleed. She's not making spectacular returns. She's not getting rich. But she's maintaining her purchasing power. She's protecting what she has. And that's the whole game when you're retired. You're not trying to double your money. You're trying to make sure your money lasts as long as you do. That's the choice in front of you right now. You can keep doing what you're doing, watching your purchasing power evaporate while your account balance looks stable. Or you can acknowledge what's really happening and make changes to protect yourself. The government isn't going to fix this. The Federal Reserve isn't going to fix this. Your bank isn't going to fix this. This is on you. You have to protect your own wealth because nobody else is going to do it for you. And the clock is ticking. Every month you wait, you lose more purchasing power. Every year you sit in cash earning 4% while inflation runs at 10%. You're guaranteeing that your money runs out sooner than you planned. This isn't a maybe. This isn't a possibility. This is mathematical certainty. Your savings account is bleeding. The question is whether you're going to stop the bleed or watch your retirement security disappear while the number on your statement looks fine. The choice is yours. But make it soon, because time is the one thing you can't get back. And every day you wait, you're losing wealth you'll never recover.